In today's news, the BVI Rotary family has raised over $90,000 during last night's telethon for the victims of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And speaking of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, VI companies donate over 36,000 bottles of water to victims of St. Vincent.
We see also the BVI sharing their lessons as it relates to hurricane recovery to UN partners.
And in addition to that, the B Youth Center opens first sessions to be held in May. We're excited to have all the details of that. Our youth are also not only happy to return to classes, but also happy to have something to do. All this and so much more when 284 News returns.
The win!
What are the hell?
I'm freaking out!
Gender is about these people.
It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the
What's poppin'? What's really good?
Davis has won it for the Lakers!
A pleasant welcome, everyone. It is a fantastic Friday here in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. That is Friday, April 16th, 2021. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. It's always a pleasure we're coming to you live and direct from our beautiful paradise, our home, Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Before we get into our newscast today, just a few summary items. Of course, policies are said to have been developed for the BVI to house evacuees from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, since the Labour Minister. Of course, a full week of face-to-face sessions. Classes begin on April 19. We know a lot of parents, students, and teachers are excited to hear about that. And of course, a courier distribution center coming to better inspect the imports, says Customs Head, and Rotary raises over $90,000 for the victims of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So excited about that. We're going to get into it.
Absolutely. Beginning with some good news. The Rotang Wholesale Limited, as well as Nagico BVI, Flow BVI, and Delta Petroleum announced a grouped donation of a container of water to the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, the container, which sailed from Port Everglades, Florida yesterday, will be delivered to the director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, of St. Vincent. Now, RTW Managing Director, Mr. Neil Hayes, said, and I quote, "We wanted to help people as quickly as possible. The best way of doing this was to send a container of water directly to St. Vincent and the Grenadines from Florida, where it will reach the affected residents in just a few days." Now, the reports regarding the shortage of clean drinking water are very concerning, and we just hope this container goes some way in providing some of the relief at a time of crisis, end of quote. Now, viewers, Stacey Roberts of Nagico's Sales and Retention, she's actually the Sales and Retention Manager, She said that Nagico Insurances here in the BVI is pleased to be joining with the Rotang Wholesale, Flow, and Delta Petroleum companies to deliver much-needed clean water to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She said, and I quote, "Having experienced Hurricane Irma, we in the BVI shared a deep sense of pain that the Lucifer volcano eruption has caused as persons have been forced to evacuate their homes. We also understand the need for a quick and decisive response to get basic food supplies and water to those who are affected by the eruptions, given the huge demand at shelters, along with the island's inability to access water from the normal sources due to ash." She continued, "We are responding in a timely manner by providing a 40-foot container of water. We remind ourselves that as a BVI community, we are a generous people. Now, despite the fact that we may still be recovering from two massive storms and, of course, coping with the global COVID-19 pandemic, we will always lend a helping hand to our Caribbean counterparts." Now, the country manager of Flow, Mr. Ravindra Mawelal, also said, of course, he was a participating company as well. He said, and I quote, "We in the BVI know all too well the devastating impact of a natural disaster of this magnitude. We are extremely pleased that Flow has found a way to help our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent with some much needed assistance. Now, given the level of support we received from around the region in the aftermath of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, we are so happy to be able to return the simple favor and, of course, offer the same level of support to our Caribbean neighbors in their time of need," end of quote. And of course, finally, we had Mr. Robert Liebert, who is actually the country manager of Delta Petroleum BVI, and he said, and I quote, Delta Petroleum is very concerned by the recent eruptions of Lucifer in St. Vincent. Over half of our employees are either from St. Vincent or can trace their roots to St. Vincent. So as a company, this is very close to home and personal for Delta Petroleum BVI. We are a company that not only stand in solidarity, but with prayers for the people of St. Vincent, but more importantly, with action. Therefore, we, along with the corporate citizens, have come together and have sent to St. Vincent over 62,400 bottles of water, which is a commodity that is in high demand due to the disruptions caused by the volcano. Our prayers and thoughts are with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this very challenging time. Ron, we continue to see corporate BVI, even within our local community, extending themselves and really stretching their hands to ensure that people in need are supported and they feel supported. And especially now that our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are going through such a tragic time, I think it's so heartwarming to see that not only are we trying our best to assist them, but we're essentially trying to get that help there as soon as possible.
Well, Jovan, as we always say, we are a brother's keeper, and I think in these challenging times, we more and more see how the region comes together, and we take for granted something as simple as water. And I think this is a prime example of showing the simple necessities that we need to continue to have a simple life, you know, and enjoy such necessities. Continuing on, here in the BVI, registration continues for the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports B Youth Center in anticipation for the opening of its first session in May 2021. Now, a ceremony was recently held for the persons to view the center and tour its amenities. Director of the Youth Affairs and Sports, Mrs. Brenda Letsamtai, explained that the center has been long in coming since 2015, but due to several setbacks, including disasters, it did not materialize. Mrs. Letsamtai noted that the success of the completion of the center is due to many partnerships and volunteers. She said, and I quote, "Youth have played an integral part in the development of the center to this point. In the late 2020 to early 2021, we reached out to 19 local businesses, 6 of which are female-led. I am humbled to say that every single business owner with whom I met discussed our plans for the B Youth Center, not only came on board, but offered encouragement and gave so much more in what we asked for. Now, the center will be open and accessible to registered persons between the ages of 15 to 29. Registration forms can be found at the department's page on the government's website by using the link bvi.gov.vg/sites default, and of course that's Department of Youth Affairs and Sports. Additionally, for a fee of $10 a month, registered B Youth Center users will be able to access the core services, including Cyber Cafe with free Wi-Fi, the professional job search, of course, Big Thinkers, Innovative, and ICT. They have the Teacher is In, that's a school support program, technical, vocational, introductory courses, entrepreneurship training, cultural, creative, and performing arts, sports, and recreation, succeeding in life, life skills, youth empowerment and outreach, and of course a lot of other different services. Jovan, this program, though it, as Ms. Brenda Tyletsam said, has been in the works for a very long time, I think it comes at a very, very pivotal point. It could not be more ideal. Of course, students are now returning to face-to-face sessions, so it works in tandem, but also it comes at a point where really and truly students need an avenue of self-expression, they need support, they need assistance, and I think this is a prime example of the Ministry of Education working really to provide those services, and I'm happy to see it come to fruition.
And I'm glad too, because it's also great for their mental health. Like you said, that expression, I don't want to say we have neglected our kids, but I don't think we have put enough emphasis on the mental impact that this pandemic has had on our kids as well. So I'm really happy about this platform, but also an important platform for them to transition from high school and into the adult world if we were to examine some of the benefits coming out of the Youth Center. And I know certainly something that our Minister of Trade, Honorable Shari De Castro, our Minister of Tourism, sorry, our Junior Minister of Tourism, Honorable Shari Castro, she was always very excited about this innovative center for our young people.
Terrific. Viewers, we had so much more, both on the local, regional, and of course, international scene. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News. Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Continuing on the local scene here in the British Virgin Islands, the Police Welfare Association hosted a farewell cocktail for Commissioner Mr. Michael Matthews on Tuesday, April 13, as he completes his final week in the post as Commissioner of Police here in the British Virgin Islands. Now, officers and police staff really took the time and, of course, took the microphone to give their personal tributes to Matthews, including the Deputy Governor of the Virgin Islands, Mr. David Archer, who opened with brief reminders of their pleasurable working relationship. Soon-to-be Commissioner of Police Mark Collins also addressed the gathering with words of commendation for Matthews for ensuring a smooth transition for his work in bringing the force through a very difficult time. Now, chairperson for the evening, which was chaired by the PWA head, Sergeant O'Neill Baker, really detailed the ways that the commissioner had impacted the life, as he did, and other members of the association, Acting Deputy Commissioner St. Clair Armory, Chief Inspector Paula Allen, and his staff officer Carlton Saunders, and many other officers of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force gave tributes in words and in song. Now, Commissioner Matthews noted his extreme gratitude for the tributes, but expressed that his achievements were largely as a result of the talents, gifts, and brilliance of men and women that already existed within the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. Now, at the end, all were invited to the unveiling of the Police Commissioner's commemorative plate at the front of the Rotan Police Station, where Matthews' name is now engraved, along with other former police commissioners from 1967 leading all the way up to 2021. Jovan, with all that has transpired throughout the territory of the Virgin Islands, I think it is imperative as the outgoing police commissioner Michael Matthews takes his exit. I think it's important that we really consider how much of a mammoth task it is to really govern and push a force and try to make it grow from strength to strength. I'll be the first to say that as residents, we are quick to be very critical of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force and the task, and when they fall short, we do take no leisure in making sure that we inform them that they're not doing a good job. But at the end of the day, persons have to understand that it's a tall order. So we do wish Police Commissioner, outgoing Police Commissioner Michael Matthews, the very best, and also the incoming Commissioner the very best, because he also does not have an easy job.
Yes, he's up for a big task. And you mentioned a very critical point, Ron. Yes, we are very heavy in our criticisms. But one thing I really love about our outgoing police commissioner, because today is actually his last day, is the fact that he remained accessible to the media. And holding such a position, it's very critical that the media and the public continues to be updated on what, not only how the police force is dealing with it, but also in bridging the gap with the community and building and strengthening that relationship. And Ron, like I told the commissioner, anyone who comes to the BVI has to serve within these level of capacities.
Yes.
You learn to love them. They become part of the BVI family. And so we want to not just commend him on his service here in the BVI, but he might be staying a little longer with us. I don't think he's in a rush to go anywhere.
And
but
we could understand why.
of course, continue to wish him All the best. Viewers, as we move on, Ms. Pat Leon Johnson, the Recovery and Development Cooperation Specialist in the Premier's office, has shared the lessons learned in hurricane recovery by the British Virgin Islands at a meeting of the UN agencies and recovery partners that was organized by UNDP as part of their Development Dialogue series. Now, Ms. Johnson made the feature presentation during a special breakout session themed, and I quote, UNDP in the recovery landscape, ensuring added value and effective partnership, end of quote. Now, among other things, the Recovery and Development Cooperation Specialist highlighted the economic and social impact of Hurricanes Irma and Maria on the British Virgin Islands since September 2017 and the progress made in the hurricane recovery by 2020. She also outlined the support provided by recovery partners such as UNDP. She also emphasized the value that UNDP has added through capacity building, direct assistance to vulnerable communities and businesses, targeted advice and feedback, and of course, strengthening of institutional functions, including procurement, monitoring, and evaluation. In addition, Ms. Johnson highlighted the importance of strengthening the collaboration between post-disaster societies and recovery partners, deeper support from external agencies, stronger networks between countries, improved coordination between the public and private sector, nonprofit organizations, and civil society, and faster response times by all partners involved in disaster response and recovery efforts. She also mentioned the areas of ongoing collaboration, including recovery planning and coordination, resource mobilization, and program design and implementation. Now, commenting on her presentation and exchange with recovery partners, Mrs. Johnson said, and I quote, "This dialogue is very important as the UN and recovery partners refine their approach ahead of the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season and in anticipation of further support as the impacts of COVID-19 crisis continues. I am very pleased to share the experience of the British Virgin Islands in hurricane recovery and hope that those who participated drew from the lessons and learned after Irma and Maria. We all stand to gain from continuing to examine how disasters response and long-term recovery can be improved," end of quote. Now, viewers, the overall theme of the development dialogue was again shifting the paradigm towards people-centered and resilient recovery, and that took place virtually on March 31st, 2021. Ron, Ms. Pat Leon Johnson has been a critical voice as it relates to not only our recovery from Hurricanes Irma and Maria, but she is really sitting in and weighing in not just her expertise, but her opinion on the sustainable development plan that is currently being put together to chart or really guide the territory for the next few years. But I think this conversation comes at a really critical time. Just yesterday, we touched on the fact that this Hurricane Atlantic season is now being compared to some of the worst we've seen, especially in recent times, most notably 2017, with 16 or 17, I believe, named storms. So I think it's critical and imperative, rather, that we continue to plan ahead of time and, of course, prepare as much as we can ahead of the season.
I agree, and most importantly, learn from what we have a past experience. And of course, like Ms. Johnson said, the events of 2017 are going to be etched in our minds, but we have to make sure that we're learning from those experiences to make sure that we make better decisions.
Our viewers still ahead of the break, while New Zealand and Australia was definitely touted as success as it relates to their response to COVID-19. Many are now wondering why they are so slow to roll out their vaccination mandates. And of course, we all heard about the entangled whale at Nanny Key. Well, it was freed, and we have all the details for you. A really good story after this commercial break.
Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and our partners that hold us down. It's season 2 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, taking you on the most inspiring journey with the best and brightest distinguished gentlemen of the BVI. Raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men like you've never seen them before. Governor Augustus J.U. Jaspert, Jovan Klein, Neil Klein, and so much more. Turning modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen with yours truly, Ron Grant, a 284 Media production. Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media at cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, as we pan across the international scene, over the past year, New Zealand has definitely been celebrated for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, as other countries battled months-long lockdowns and hospital systems on the brink of collapse. New Zealand imposed a 5-week nationwide lockdown before returning to something resembling normality. Now, although borders have been closed to foreigners for more than a year, music festivals and weddings have gone ahead. The country has reported around 2,500 cases and 26 deaths. Now, it was a similar story in other parts of Asia Pacific, so much that when Australian think tank Lowy Institute scored more than 100 countries on their COVID-19 performance earlier this year, it found that Asia Pacific had, on average, been the most successful region in the world at containing the pandemic. Now, the two worst regions, according to the Lowy Institute, were Europe and the Americas, of course, and leaders in the United States and United Kingdom in particular were seen as catastrophic failures at their handling of the pandemic. But as the world enters a new phase of the pandemic measures, the tables are somewhat turning. Now, the US and UK are leading in their world vaccination campaigns, while some Asia-Pacific countries that won praise for containing the virus are now lagging behind. Already, 37% of Americans have received at least one dose. According to a CNN analysis estimate, the country could achieve herd immunity through vaccines by the summer. Now, something that would probably require 70% to 80% of people to be vaccinated. Now, the United Kingdom, which became the first country to administer a fully tested vaccine back in December, has already at least partially vaccinated 47% of that population. By contrast, however, New Zealand, Thailand, Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan, all relatively successful at preventing large-scale outbreaks, have each vaccinated less than 4% of their populations. Australia, which once planned to have its population vaccinated by the end of the year, now says it won't be setting any targets. As of April 12th, Australia had vaccinated just 1.2 million people, which is less than 5% of its population. New Zealand is the second lowest in the OECD in terms of the number of COVID-19 vaccines administered. Now, viewers, the situation differs for every country, as we know, but experts say one reason is where they are in the queue. Now, these Asia-Pacific countries just didn't sign agreements with manufacturers of vaccines as early as others. Now, while leaders are defending their slow rollout, saying there's value in waiting to see how the vaccines work in other countries that need them more, experts are now urging them to speed up immunization, or risk being left behind. Ron, I think we have continued to echo the fact that within this COVID-19 pandemic, every country is really using or adopting methods that are working for them and personalized to their population.
Correct.
And we continue to look at the fact that in many instances, yes, we do not need to invent the wheel, but we see leaders across the world, and especially New Zealand, which has been touted as a world leader in response to this crisis, now being criticized for essentially not getting their population vaccinated fast enough. It's interesting.
Well, that is a very interesting conundrum, but there's also the conundrum of persons and territories, leaders really putting lives versus livelihood. I think we here in the British Virgin Islands could definitely say that that has been the battle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, persons really criticizing Premier Foy and his government for not moving fast enough, but with his administration, just really and truly, based on their vantage point, wanting to put the livelihood of persons before the lives versus livelihood.
Before
You know,
livelihood.
so as you mentioned, different
It's a
countries
tough balance to strike.
are trying to just do whatever they think is fit. Continuing on, viewers, on the local scene, the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has reported that a male humpback whale has been freed after getting caught in a net in the Sir Francis Drake's Channel, and that is of course thanks to the keen attention of residents across the territory of the Virgin Islands, who were made sure of contacting authorities to make sure that this was handled. Mr. Kenneth Pemberton of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries said that the reports were received on April 12th of a whale south of Nanny Key covered in a fishing net. Mr. Pemberton said, and I quote, "We were concerned that the whale could drown from being caught in the net. Luckily, he was somehow able to shake the net loose." Ghost fishing nets are something very familiar to marine debris, and that can result, of course, in the death of marine animals. So we have to be vigilant about what we discard in the ocean. Now, it is reported that the male humpback was in the company of a female and her calf and did not appear in distress when was last seen. Now, Dr. Shannon Gore of the Association of Reef Keepers was one of the key responders who quickly arranged the Blue Waters divers to mobilize a vessel to search for the mammal. Now, Dr. Gore said, and I quote, "The divers were able to really see that there was about 50 feet of line left on the whale. The whale went into shallow water to try to rid itself of the line, but rubbing itself on the sea floor. Now, it was not in a position," she said, "and could not move." She added, "It is possible that the line drifted from the open shore, but it does not see a large patch, and the debris in the water let us know. We can also be reached persons." She encouraged to reach them at 468-7998 in the event that you're out on the waters and you're seeing anything that looks suspicious. And again, this was all as a result of persons in the area who called officials and really were concerned. And Jovan, when we look at our marine industry, we really have to continue to protect it. Being the sailing capital of the world, I think persons sometimes ignore the fact that this is of paramount importance, and also our activities, just like Mr. Pemberton said, we have to be cognizant of what we're putting into the ocean. That could affect our marine industry. It's very, very important.
Absolutely, and I know Honorable Vincent Whitley, who
Yes.
oversees this portfolio, of course, is very adamant about getting legislations in place that will continue to protect the environment, because ultimately it really ties into our tourism product. And just yesterday, I believe, I saw him making a post. Oh, it says, and I quote, "I really must thank the commercial dive services for volunteering to assist the Ministry of Natural Resources in removing old nets and other garbage from our waters. We must continue to take care of our environment." And I do know that that whale was actually stuck in some material as well. So again, it is our collective responsibility to ensure, as fishers, as fishermen, fisherwomen, but as wider residents of the community, to of course continue to ensure that we are getting rid of our litter properly and not harming the natural environment. And I'm so happy to see that this whale was able to be freed.
Yes.
But
The Ministry of Education, Jovan, Culture, Youth Affairs, Fisheries, and Agriculture, and of course, like you mentioned, the Ministry of Natural Resources, they really extend their gratitude to the community for really supporting and locating the whale. Special thanks is also extended to Dr. Shannon Gore of the Association of Reef Keepers, Husky Salvage of Blue Water Divers, and Chris Jardine of Commercial Dive Services, and of course, the hardworking brothers and sisters of Vizar, who continue to do remarkable work.
Yes, and I believe as well, there was a notice on the BVI community board, which, you know, anything that goes on the board spreads like wildfire. But that is our residents really taking the responsibility of the environment,
Correct.
and that was really commendable. But viewers, I think that is all the time we have for today. We have come down to the end of another amazing week here of news at 284 News. But we want to encourage you to check out our website. That is 284media.com. We're also on Facebook at 284 Media and 284 BVI, on Instagram as well as Twitter. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. It's always a pleasure. Have a happy Friday to each and every one of you, and do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.